Good afternoon, maybe some places it could be good morning. Hey, welcome to yet another live. I suspect this evening I might not get a big flood of visitors in the early stages, but I want to just get going with this program that I've been researching a lot of, looking into a lot, and that is about the situation in Niger. I want to take us to some other places in the thing. So right now, let me do my countdown. All right. So I kind of just want to reset myself a little bit. I have a tape that I'm going to open with. It's pretty, not too long because I can't make them too long, but I have a nice piece of tape that I want to just establish the ground rules are what we're going to base this evening's or today's discussion around. All right. So here we go.
It was July 30th, 2023, just weeks after the military coup in Niger. The army supporters gathered at the French embassy in Niamey, hundreds of them. They set fire to the embassy's door. They also burned the French flag. Back in Paris, President Emmanuel Macron was spooked. He ordered a full evacuation. Around 600 French nationals lived in this country. All of them were pulled out. This military coup is definitely anti-democracy, but it's also anti-French. All symbols of France have been targeted, their embassy, their flag, and also their military base. But why the animosity? And why towards France and not other countries? The answer lies in Niger's history. In fact, the history of West Africa. This region was colonized by France from the late 19th century. They became independent after the Second World War, but unlike other colonizers, France never left. Their influence and presence continued to linger. Why is that? Time for a flashback. Let's begin from the 16th century. That's when France became interested in Africa. The reason was slaves. The French were the third biggest slave traders. They took around 1.3 million Africans to their colonies in the Americas. Around 200,000 people never made it. They perished at sea. As the slave trade developed, France needed ports. They got one in 1659 here in Saint Louis in Senegal. For a long time, French interests were limited to coastal Africa. The interiors were untouched. But in the 19th century, that changed. There were two reasons for that. One was the domestic rivalry back home. The European powers were already competing with each other. Africa became a new theater. And reason number two was resources. Europe needed to feed its expanding industries. They zeroed in on this area. It was called the Gold Coast. There was gold, oil, and much more there. The French expansion began from Senegal. In 1854, General Louis Faidherbe was appointed governor. He quickly got down to business. Under his rule, French control was extended to Gambia. But his ambitions were bigger. He wanted to conquer the Niger Delta and Mali. His government was not so keen, though. They thought it would be too expensive, so the expansion project was paused. It would resume in the 1880s. This was the beginning of the scramble for Africa. No shadow wars anymore. European armies were marching across the continent. They were picking off countries one by one. This inevitably led to fighting between European powers, so the German chancellor proposed a plan. This man, Otto von Bismarck. He brought all the European countries together in Berlin. In 1885, these countries signed the Berlin Act. It formalized the scramble for Africa, and the logic was quite simple. Instead of fighting each other, let's carve up the continent. Each country gets its own colony. And no, the Africans were not consulted. In the 1880s, almost 80% of the continent was ruled by the locals, kings, sultans, and tribal chiefs. By 1900, it was flipped. Around 90% of Africa was colonized by Europe, and Niger was part of this. In 1899, 2 French officers were put on the job. Captain Paul Vollet would lead this mission, and his second in command was Julien Chanoine. Both men had one thing in common: their bloodlust. They set off from Dakar in Senegal. Their job was this: explore Chad and Niger, gather local intelligence, reach the Sudan, and return. Basically, create this ribbon of French territory, from Senegal in the west to the Sudan in the east. Captain Vollet had a reputation. He led the French conquest of Burkina Faso in 1896. He was ambitious and brutal. His expedition to the Sudan is called many things: the Killer Trail, the African Apocalypse, the Heart of Darkness. Gives you an idea of what went down. It was one of the most violent and bloody episodes in colonial history, not just in Africa, but the whole world. Vollet's mission was not well funded, so at the first village he reached, he demanded porters. He needed people to carry things. When the locals denied, he razed the entire village. Around 100 people wiped out. It was a sign of things to come. Vollet often refused to feed his camp followers. When they complained, he killed them. Men, women, and children were bayoneted to death, not shot, bayoneted, because Vollet wanted to save bullets. Such massacres followed him everywhere. It was so bad that word reached the French government in Paris. Vollet's own soldiers were horrified by the violence. Some of them deserted.
Okay, all right. I started with that because I believe it gives you a real essence, a real feel for what the Africans encountered, what happened to the Africans. How did the Europeans get to conquer Africa? Now, the Europeans, they started out, they were the first to develop gunpowder and use it as a weapon. Gunpowder was actually developed in China, but the Chinese didn't use it to do mass destruction. It wasn't used as a weapon of mass destruction. It was used for celebration. That's why you see the Chinese are so good at making these fireworks and all of these fancy things that they do with gunpowder. The Europeans, who have a different mindset, a more destructive kind of mindset, they are the ones who figured it out that they could use this thing to make weapons of mass destruction. Now, when they encountered, wherever they went, once they developed this thing, because they used it on themselves first in these wars, European wars of early days, they used it on themselves first and they perfected it. After a while, it was even brought here, where I'm sitting now in these Americas. That was used a lot in the War of Conquest. But even before America was developed, when the pirates, the Columbuses, and whoever they call them, these guys who came, these pirates, these hooligans, these brigands, these vagabonds who came from wherever they came from, they brought it and they used it. They, as you heard in that report, they even reached the point because they had so many people to kill, or they would like to kill. They say, you know what, when we hold them, don't waste the bullet on them. Use the bayonets and kill them so we can save the bullets. Because to be honest with you, they couldn't face the Africans. They couldn't face the Africans. And they couldn't fight the Africans one-on-one with bayonets and the Africans with their spears and arrows and whatever they were, swords, whatever they were using. But they used gunpowder and they conquered everybody. And after that, the Africans were held in subjugation because, as you heard about these two guys, one of them, I remember his name, it's spelled like with a V, Vollet. But there is a society, a French society that they call, and black people have formed, become a part of it. It's called the Black Boulet. People, it's a kind of a lodge, a French lodge, a French Freemason kind of thing, and black people are involved in it. But the name, I think, came from this guy, this murderous person named Vollet, who did such awful things to the Africans when he encountered them, that the people back in France who sent him to go conquer the thing was so horrible, horrifying that he was doing to the people that even the French people of themselves said, no, get that guy out of here. Get him out of there. And when they went after him to take him out, he, as we say in Jamaica, him take for himself. But they, they pursued him, caught up in him, and I think his own men killed both of them. These two guys who they said, but they were such, where's the word? Sadomasochist. These guys, they showed no mercy. They would just kill for nothing. And as one person, when they came through the town that they had just passed through, they saw young girls hanging from the trees. They saw people, just 1,000 people just lay out on the ground dead. They killed them and just went up, rode off, and just left them there. So that is the genesis. The genesis, how we ended up where we end up in slavery and all that kind of thing. We never had the gunpowder. China, not even China, China invented the gunpowder, but China didn't use it as a weapon. They didn't figure it out that it could have been used as a weapon. The Europeans figured it out and they used it. Now, before I go any further, let me just stop here and just ask whoever will join, whoever has joined, I'm going to ask you please to subscribe, like, and share. Share in whichever way. Those who are on Facebook and that kind of thing, I'm going to ask you to tag your friends and let's have this discussion. I know it might not be the kind of discussion that some people want to talk about, to have right now, but it is absolutely necessary to have based on what is happening in Niger. Because Niger is part of the whole, that's how they got conquered. These guys named Boulay, they conquered these places, a bunch of them, which is one of them, which is now called Burkina Faso, one is now called Mali, all those things. They are part of it, and that's how they ended up this way. Now, when I go deeper into the program, I have quite a few tapes, clips that I'm going to play this evening, and I want everybody to kind of just pay attention, because we might think this thing can never happen again. But the way the world is going, Europeans are losing control of the resources of the earth. The Africans are rising up and they're taking back their resources. And these Europeans, they're not taking kindly to it. So they're now, what they will do, they will stoke discard within the societies that they come upon. And when you go off and you start fighting, and what we know called civil war, they actually stoke and help to get it going, carry news from one to the other, kill somebody and say that one did it, make all kind of mischief, and then set it off so the people, whether it be Africans, whether it be Indians, whether it be Chinese, when they were ruling, when they were in control, when it was they alone who had this gunpowder. No, the gunpowder is all over the place. And there was a time when nuclear weapons, people would flex their muscle because they had nuclear weapons and everybody would be afraid of them. But the way the world is right now, every little country has nuclear weapon. Now, the thing that makes nuclear weapons, that whether the neutron bomb or the atomic bomb, or the thing it comes from is from this thing that they have in Niger, uranium, and Niger has it in abundance, and so France took control of that thing. And we're going to go into a lady named Dr. Arikana later on, who is a person who actually, as the saying goes, bailed the cat that made this thing, exposed this thing, that France was really mistreating these people. They were just robbing them, trillions of dollars. They were robbing them, and they left the people in abject poverty. And nobody, people all the time would wonder, how is it that that these people, how is it that Africans are so poor? The continent is considered one of the richest continents because it has all the natural resources that mankind needs to do whatever we are doing today. From making of the cell phone to the computers to satellites to airplanes to motor cars, the batteries, all of that material come. But yet, still, these people are poor. Oil, which comes up, just gushing out of the earth in that place. Right now, the same Niger, they have discovered oil. And so part of the problem is that these people have grown tired of being so poor, yet still when they look and they go to Paris and they go to England and they go to Germany, they're living these people are living this high life. And the place where the Africans finally figured it out and said, well, they're getting these things from us. How is it that we don't have electricity? How is it that we don't have roads? How is it that our lives are so miserable when they have nothing? They don't grow cocoa in Germany. They don't grow cocoa in Switzerland. But Switzerland is known as a chocolate capital of the world. The name Hershey is a town in Switzerland. And how is it? How did they come off owning these things to the point? And we, the Africans who plant this thing, who grow this thing, who produce this thing, why is it we are so poor and they are so rich? And then the Africans have finally come to the understanding and say, guess what? We can't afford to continue selling raw whatever we produce. This is the way we sell bauxite in Jamaica. They said, no, we're not doing that anymore. You want to get aluminum? You come to wherever it is where aluminum is. I think the Cameroons might be one of them, and Guinea, and so yeah, Guinea, it's a country named Guinea. They are mass producers of bauxite. Now, bauxite has two other stages. You first you take the dirt out to the ground and do a little cleaning up with it. That's why we have the red mud lake. They do some cleaning up, and I think it actually turns in it. You end up getting a white product. It's white when they clean it, like they bleach it out or something. And then they load it up in ships and they take it away to America and to Australia and to wherever they process these things. Now, Jamaica has not woken up to this reality to say we cannot sell this bauxite like this anymore. There is no value for us. We have to do what we call value added now. And it's coming right back from where this whole thing of Niger and Mali and Burkina Faso and wherever else these things are being produced. Even gold and diamonds and all of that. They were just selling them the dirty, like with diamonds, it comes out very dirty, and they sell it to Europeans, and they take it wherever they go, and they clean it up, and they sell it, make it pretty and nice and shiny, and they sell it for thousands of times more valuable than when they get the dirty things. So the Africans say, we're not selling diamonds like this anymore. We're not selling oil like this anymore. We're not selling bauxite like this anymore. We want you to come to Africa, put up a plant and produce it right here in Africa, because there's a serious problem in the world right now where the young people are running out of Africa every day. Hundreds of them die in the Mediterranean. When they leave, they walk through these deserts. Some of them, they see them die dead in the desert. You have these great, what they call the Sahel or the Sahara Desert or whatever they call them. You see these young people just dropping down, dying because they didn't know how treacherous the road or the route is to get into Europe. So they set off and they may not have carried enough water. Maybe they think because you have to drink so much water to survive, they use up the water so fast, and then they end up in the desert with no water, and they die in the desert. When some of those who manage to make it through the desert and reach into countries like Libya, because Libya is almost like it is a failed state right now. The place is in shambles because NATO went in there and bombed the Dickens out of Libya, and Libya is a failed state at this time. And so when they go to Libya, they grab them and they sell them as slaves. They sell them into slavery because slavery still exists in some of those countries. I don't want to call them because I'm not sure which one is which one, but in that area in North Africa and going up into the Arabia and all those people, they are being sold into slavery. So that is one pitfall that they run into. The next one now, they will get on these little rickety boats, and too many of them will get on one rubber dinghy because they're so desperate and so don't want to miss this chance. People with their children, babies, they're going on these things and they're sinking, they're capsizing, they turn over, all kinds of things, and they're just dying like flies in the Mediterranean Sea. So what this is why now the Africans now they became awoke with this thing to say, what the hell is this? What are we going to do? And they fear now to say, you know what? We have to start creating jobs where we are. We are the ones who are selling the raw material, and so we have to start, making the things here and get these people jobs. And if it should happen, they would be producing so much because they'll be producing for the world, and that this is why China is so rich now. China is a producer, a manufacturer. They produce most of the things for the world. But China doesn't even have the raw material. They get it from Africa. The only thing China might grow in abundance is things like rice. And I think they're into aquaculture now, where they grow fish. They raise fish in ponds and things like that. And it's big. But in terms of the gold and the diamond and the aluminum and the iron and whatever the material, that mineral or whatever element there is in the earth that we use in this earth, it is to be found in its raw stage on the African continent. If we don't do it, if we don't have all of it, we tend to have maybe say 60-70% of the supply, oil, everything. This same country, Niger, which is creating this whole heap of problems, where this big hullabaloo is swirling around, they suddenly discovered oil recently. I saw a video, and I should have captured that video. I saw a video where you see the oil actually just bubbling up out of the ground because somebody went there and punched a hole, and they hit up on a well, an oil well. So it is just they're pumping, bubbling up out of the ground. Somebody will have to go there sooner or later and cap it. You see it running down in the desert, and they will have to cap it, because it's not going to serve any purpose like that. So here it is now that the Africans have discovered, hey, we're being shortchanged. We're not getting the returns. We need to do what you call value added, where you convert the thing from raw material into a finished product, and that's what they call value added. For those who don't know, I assume a lot of people will know it, but I just have to help those who might not know to further explain it. And so if you get cement and you mix it and you make maybe some kind of ornamental thing to put on a lawn, that ornamental thing will bring you more money than just a bag of cement. So that's when you say you add value to that thing. And it's, there's a term they call value added to the thing, and you make more money that way. So this is why the Africans are now saying, if we are the ones who are producing aluminum, if we are the ones who are producing steel, if we are the ones who are producing the sand that makes glass, then we should be producing glass. We should be producing steel products. We should be producing aluminum, whatever form you want aluminum in. We should be producing it. They use it a lot in airplanes. One of the main product that makes the airplane is founded material. I don't remember the name right now, but it's just found in Africa only. And so that's where so all the planes that just are flying around, it's made from this material. And they're saying that, they want to start doing these things. Now, there is a period, I'm going back to France now. There's a period when there's a man named Charles de Gaulle. Charles de Gaulle was a president of France. And one day, Charles de Gaulle looked at the people in France and said, we cannot afford to lose Africa. Because if we lose Africa in no time at all, in a very short period of time, France would become a third world country. Now, if you notice that in France, they're having a lot of uprising, a lot of rioting, a lot of looting and burning and destruction going on, because the people are not experiencing the lifestyle that they used to have before, because the African people are grabbing onto their resources and holding on to it. So France can't get it to steal it anymore. I want to go to a lady named Dr. Arikana. Why am I only seeing one Dr. Arikana? I should have at least two of them. Let me see if this is her also. Yeah, it looks like I left off one of them. Journalist. And this is So Dr. It probably didn't load it, but Dr. Arikana is the one who blew the whistle on France, that France was abusing Africa, and that is why they were having this big problem coming out of Africa, where the young people are just running away, running into Europe. If you notice, when the World Cup football is going, you see how many black people are on the team, because they are great football players, and whatever else they do, and they're just running into these European countries because they see life in there and they have no life where they're coming from, because France in particular is stealing everything. Let me go to Dr. Arikana for a little bit. I hope I have the right cut, but let me go to it straight away.
Voice. Yeah. And this is exactly what our Pan-African leaders wanted to see happen in 1963 when they came together in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. They clearly stated that Africa for the Africans at home and abroad, and that African Union was now. They said Africa must speak with one voice. It is the only way for Africa to take its rightful place on the world stage. Sadly, when they went to Addis Ababa in 1963, they were divided. We had two factions, the Casablanca group and the Monrovia group. The Casablanca group were saying Africa for the Africans at home and abroad, and African Union now. This was Ghana, Guinea, Mali, Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. Only 7. The other 25 of the 32 who attended were the Monrovia group. They were the nationalists. They said, let's go slow. Let's kind of wait on this Pan-African thing. 55 years later, 56 this year, we're still going slow. As if it wasn't bad enough that we were divided up into the tiny little countries that we are today. The gift that Berlin Conference gave us. One other thing that France did between 1958 and 1961 in the name of giving us our independence as African countries. France forced the Francophone, and I hate that terminology. There is no such thing as Francophone, Anglophone. They made it up. But for the purposes of communication, I will use that. 14 of those countries, they said, in order for you to get your independence from us, you must sign this document. You thought they could have found a better name for the document. The document was called the Pact for the Continuation. I repeat, the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. We are talking about giving you independence, but sign this pact for the continuation of colonization in a different format. And I'm going to highlight some of those issues that they said you must agree to if you are going to be independent. Hello. Maybe we need to redefine the meaning of independence for the French. France said, you see, you monkeys, you don't know how to manage your money. We're going to demand that you deposit 85% of your bank reserves with the French Ministry of Finance. Under the French Central Bank, under the control of the French Minister of Finance. France is then going to take your 85% bank deposits from each and every one of you. Deposit those funds in the French stock market under under the French name. And you may or may not know the returns. Today, as we speak, the latest figures are saying for every 14 billion that France invests in the stock market from Africa, they are realizing upwards of 300 billion in return. Every year in, year out, because of these deposits from the African countries, France is taking out of Africa over $500 billion. Now figure it out.
Right. You know what she said? Every year. Because when France, because the Africans so badly wanted to get independence, and then in all of this thing, you always have a con person, a con man, who will put himself up as president, prime, well, they use mainly president because they usually go to the republic system when they gain this type of independence. So France, what France did to them, and they did it to Haiti too, right? They say, all right, we'll give you independence, but you have to be tied into the French financial system. And when they tie you into the French financial system, you have to they create the money for you, which is the CFA franc, or they call it CFA. And we will make this money for you. France not using it. They created this one specially for African. And they said, all of you African countries, we're going to make this money for you. It's going to be pegged to the euro. And you're going to put your money in there. You must put up to 80% of your money in the bank. You must put up to 80% of your money in the bank, in the Central Bank of France. And she's saying every year up to $400 billion come out of, it's about 17 of these French colonies, and go directly into the French financial system. Now, when you must put up 80% of whatever you earn. And then if you, as a country, need to get some of that money, you have to borrow it at a very high interest rate. I need to just kind of stop for a quick second and identify who the lady is. That is Dr. Arikana Chiombori. I think she originates out of Zimbabwe, and she was once the ambassador. We have this organization called the AU, the African Union, and she was an ambassador, the AU ambassador to the United States. Now, when she went and she got to this position, people who God believing people would say, well, God, they have a way to set up people and put in a position. Whether you're a church person or not, there's a force out there. They call it the universe, whatever, that orders things. And we walk into a situation and things happen. And we and it works out in such a way. She wasn't even looking. She's a medical doctor, and she has money. She has several clinics that she owns. And somebody come to her and tell her, look, why don't you come be the ambassador for the African Union? And the African Union is very important. It's very important. It used to be called the OAU before, the Organization of African Unity, but they changed it out and brought this African Union, which is something less than the OAU. But that's what it is right now. So she was given this position to be ambassador, the AU ambassador to the United States. And while she was in her office, holding this office, somebody, as we say in Jamaica, somebody pinched her and gave her some documents and showed her what France was doing. And she is a lady. She does not hold her mouth. She does not hold her tongue. She don't talk with water in her mouth. She don't play, as we say. She don't ramp, as we say. And she exposed France. She even got sick. This recording was done from 2019. But since then, she has actually got sick. She was having a throat problem for the longest while, and I suspected they might have sprayed her with something or injected her with something. I think she's much better now. But for a long time, sometimes she couldn't even speak. And, she's a very good speaker. And she's in demand. And even when the throat is giving her trouble, she'd still be talking. but I think she has improved. She also developed an organization where she's developing, trying to get, develop the funds for people in the diaspora to get some of the investments coming out of Africa. Instead of everything going to China, Africans in the diaspora can pool in this money like $1,000 a month, and then they use it and try to get some of the contracts and so forth. But that's for another time. So, but just let you know who Dr. Arikana Chiombori Quo, there's a last part to Quo, who she is. And so she was given this thing that she exposed what France was doing. And France since then has not been very kind to her. And in fact, after once she exposed it, she lost her job within a week. They fired her as the ambassador within like about a week. Very short period of time, she was fired. And she has been on a campaign from that time exposing France about what France is doing. So some of what you see happening in this Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, these things you see that are happening, Dr. Arikana is the one who opened their eyes, and they are in turn acting on it. So here's where the problem is right now. Oh boy, I don't think I pulled up that piece. There, I showed a map last week. And when you look at the map, I might be able to find it. No, I don't see it. There's a map there where it showed you in Guinea, not Guinea, in Niger, there is a line going straight down through Niger. And that is a pipeline that is coming out of, it's coming out of Nigeria, and it is carrying gas, liquid gas, liquefied, where we call LNG, the one that you buy to cooking gas type of thing. Because that is what Europe uses a lot of. They use the uranium to fire the plants, to burn and to create electricity. France uses it, value add, create this value added thing where they create electricity and they sell electricity to the rest of Europe. Now, it is France alone who is benefiting from this. They didn't take the uranium and make the gas and say, all right, we're going to share this, which I know it's not going to work. They're not going to, just the way they're doing Jamaica today, where they tell Jamaica to say, go into business with us. We will make the box, we'll make the aluminum, and then we will give you a share of the profit. Jamaica does not run the country. They don't run the country. They don't run the United States, which is where these people come from. They don't run them. And these are some huge organizations, some super big organization. And they're not going to allow little Jamaica to come looking on their books. So at the end of every year, they come to Concho and tell Concho, oh, we didn't make a profit this year. They get in the backside. They're making aluminum. They're selling aluminum. But they tell you, we didn't make any profit. No, something is wrong with somebody's brain. After a year or two, George Bush used to have a little saying, fool me once, shame on you, or something like that. Fool me twice, shame on me. And he went on to say that thing, and after then the third time, you can't fool me again. Some nonsense like that. But that is the thing. If you get fooled, and you get tricked, and you lose it for one time, and you go back the second time, and you get fooled again, something should be telling you in your brain that this cannot work. It can't work. You're giving away the things for nothing. And that's what Africans have come to the realization. 50 years of giving away their resources to Europe and America. 50 years of it. No, you want to know why I have to come back to this Niger thing? The reason they're going after Niger is because Niger, as that pipeline coming out of Nigeria, Niger also just discovered oil, and there is a third pipeline that, they discovered oil, and they're leading a pipeline from Niger through another country and taking it to a port, and they'll be selling oil. No, this is a little poor country that probably doesn't have the wherewithal to, do the investigation at the level of France, to investigate France, and let them go to the double, what I'm calling it, the World Trade Organization, WTO. If they go to the WTO, they could help them. But they're not looking at them. They don't care anything about them. They just think these little barefooted, dirty people. Why should we give them anything? We needed to live this nice, big, high life. And the same thing with Jamaica. Why should we give Jamaica money? When Jamaica, you're going to people go to the hospitals. I see a picture one day, and again, I should have brought this picture with me. You see the people lying on the floor in the hospitals, on seats, sick people, seriously sick people, lying on the floor in Jamaica, lying on chairs in Jamaica. And you have these people raping the country, robbing the country, and nobody in Jamaica can see and say something wrong with this. You're going to make aluminum, come to Jamaica and make the aluminum here. Come make it here. You're not taking no more raw material out of here. We've been saying this for weeks now. When Peter from Queens and him having time and he will call in and thing, and Peter, please, because I have a whole bunch of things. So give me a break this evening. Let me just go through this. And but we talk about it, the poverty pimp business, where they're just abusing the Jamaican people. That's what they were doing to the actually it's Nigerian. It almost pronounced the same as the Nigerian. And they just get tired of it. The people in Burkina Faso, they got tired of it. The people in Mali, they got tired. Why are we living so poor, so poverty-stricken, when the people who are taking these raw materials, they're living this high life? Why? And this is why. Now, the uranium, it's story, and I said the story last time, and I'm going to go and bring up some more Dr. Arcana. When they took the uranium, what happened is that Russia supplies uranium also. America gets its uranium from Russia, but America put a sanction on Russia. But the only thing they never sanctioned was uranium. So they're still getting their supply of uranium from Russia. The Europeans were getting the gas, they going through Germany, and it run underground on the floor of the sea, and they were taking it up into Germany, and somebody blew up. They said, I heard, it just said that it is the Americans who blew it up, but I can't say anything for sure that anything goes up. But that's the way they say it is. They say it's the Americans who blew up the thing. Now, when they blew it up, Germany is living under the threat of going through winters with no heat, because they are at war with Russia, and they blow up the pipeline, and Germany can't get anything. They have to be buying oil, expensive oil, and dragging it up through the seas and carry it wherever, with a ship and it's not the kind of manufacturing that Germany does. They need way more than that. They need a constant flow. So the big problem that developed out of this thing with Niger is that once they have this falling out with the Nigerian, they put a puppet in there. The man who they call, I made sure to write down his name here this evening, because sometimes there's so many names. The man Chiani, right? Chiani is the man who I'm not going to try to call his first name, but his name is Chiani. And he was the man not Chiani. It's the man who, I almost got myself in trouble. The man who they put there is this very weird name. Where's his name? But this man named Bazoum, the Bazoum guy who they overthrew. He was a puppet sitting in there, making sure, guaranteeing France that they have their supply of uranium and the supply. And they know America was building this pipeline, cost like $60 billion to run the pipeline. And they were building it to come from Nigeria and to take it so the gas can get up into Europe, so Europe can start getting their supply of gas because they when winter comes, they have some serious winters. And now, because for the lack of a better expression, or to make it so it have the essence of what I want to say, they pissed off the Nigerians. And the Nigerians said, no, you're not running any more pipeline through here. So why they want to open World War III is that if them don't find a way to make peace and bring the people who are holding Niger right now. And I don't think they're going to make it happen so they go through winter with no heat. But if they make the same mistake like how they made in Libya, where they blow up Libya, kill Gaddafi, and what they get now is a whole heap of terrorist group born up all over the place, and nobody controls Libya right now. If they touch Niger and start a war, it's going to be a bigger explosion. And this stupid role that this man in Nigeria, Tinubu, the stupid role he's playing to say he's the one who's going to be the proxy warrior for the West. He's going to attack Niger, but Niger is fortifying itself, them getting all kind of support from the Russians, from the Algerians, from the Burkina Faso, Mali. Everybody's going to say, we're going to fight with you. If you touch Niger, you touch all of us. So they do something like what they do in NATO, where NATO says if you touch one NATO country, you touch all. So these people are now developing their thing. They're in an organization named ECOWAS. They named the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. And they said, they're pulling out the ECOWAS because the Nigerians are the ones who are the present chair of ECOWAS. And since Nigeria wants to go play this proxy warrior for the West to take on Niger, the rest of them now saying, we're going to pull out the ECOWAS. If it's this nonsense, we're going to go through. So the threat of Europe going through a winter this year with no heat, and they were coming very close to finishing it and to start sending the gas from Nigeria up into Europe. But they messed with the Nigerians, and they said, no further. We don't even know if the man who took over, this general who took over, we're not even sure if he's genuine, if he's a genuine revolutionary, if he's a genuine person who wants to help the people. But it's so played out that it has played out. A similar thing happened to Cuba, where Cuba never started out as a communist country, but because of how they were treated, they were forced into the situation where they aligned themselves to Russia for protection. So the same thing is happening now in Niger, where Niger is aligning itself to Russia. Russia has this mercenary group, the Wagner group, who will fight, and they have the wherewithal to fight, and they are good fighters. And so it is going to be a messy situation because they thought they could have just walked in there and France is pushing these guys to attack them, and these guys are not, right now, Nigeria, there's so much connection in this thing, and I have to bring out all of it. Nigeria is going through a major economic problem right now. They have very high inflation, 25% inflation. The people are on edge. They don't have some little stupidness for them to take away gas subsidy, and when they move the subsidy, create a bigger problem. They have a major problem. And people say, why are you going out there to go mess with Niger when we have our own problems? Where are we going to get money to go fight no war to fight Niger? But obviously, the West is giving them money to go do it. And they're ready to stay out in the sea and send all kind of cruise missile over into the little poor ass country to go kill our poor people, poor Africans, and thing. And I'm going to appeal to Uncle Joe tonight again in a different way to say, yo, Uncle Joe, think about what you're doing. Try find a way to go in that place. Sit down with these guys and talk, because everybody wants to eat. They're being starved out right now. There's the poor people, they're starving out because they put sanctions on them. Stupid little man again, Tinubu, put sanctions on Niger. And it's poor people, poor black people. And they're punishing them. The sad part of the guy who they overthrew, it's a lot of parts to this thing. I'm trying to put the pieces in as much as possible. Tinubu is an Arab from a group them called the Tuareg. The Tuareg are one of the biggest, wickedest, murderous group you ever met upon. They had a war in Sudan, and that's why Sudan ended up splitting into East or North and South Sudan. That's what called that Tuareg group. It's a very light complexion set of people. I'm going to show you this guy, what it look like. So he's even looking brown and now darker than it. That's a Tuareg. That's the man named Chiani. That is the man they put in charge of Niger. How he got into it, they are the smallest group in Niger. And if you understand how they do politics in Africa, it's centered around your tribe or your whatever group you belong to. And so if you come out of a group where you have a big group, like I said, the Hausas are a very large group, and another one of the Fulanis, and that's in Niger. That's a very large group. So they're likely to, those groups like to get to run the country. I think it's not so bad in Nigeria, no, but it is likely if they decide to go down the line of their tribal connections. So this Chiani man, not Chiani, I see people call him Chiani. What's my name again now? Whatever, the one who threw out, I have to write his name now. So every time I read it, I can't remember. It comes to me and then it slips me. They decided to put this guy in charge, and the people figured it out that this man, they found him out to be a traitor. He was selling them out, guaranteeing France the supply of uranium and nothing to the people. And that's why he got overthrown, because these guys said, no, you're not going to get away with this. And that's why they want to charge him with high treason right now, because he allowed the Americans to come put a base, a drone base in the country. He allowed France to set up a military base in the country. He allowed all kinds of things, and people are now saying, hey, we're going to charge you with high treason because you brought these people in here. So when everybody's saying, oh, release him, you think they care about him so much? They just want him back there because they want me to continue doing their bidding. And so let me go back to a little bit, so you know, you're too much on me for too long. Let me go back to Dr. Arikana, because I want her to make her point.
For every 14 billion, the returns on the investment are over 300 billion, and they are taking over 500 billion. So in actuality, France is taking out of Africa trillions of dollars year in and year out from us poor people, Africans. Back to the pact. So should you want to access some of your money that you have deposited with France, you have to submit your country's financial returns. And if approved, you get to get it as a loan. You can only access up to 20% of your money year in, year out as a loan at commercial interest rates. Your own money. As if that was not enough. They said all your minerals discovered, yet to be discovered, all your oil discovered, yet to be discovered. France and French companies have the first right of refusal. If there's anything left over that the French companies do not want, your people might have. To this day.
All right, so because I'm limited to how long I can let these tapes go, and sometimes if they get too long, people tend to lose focus. But see, she's laying it out, telling us what they did to these people, and she said these things are happening. You have to put you have to put your money in the French banking system. And when I did next clip I'm going to play, I'm not going to wait too long to play it. She has pointed out that I'm doing good. She has pointed, remember, before I go on again, let me just ask everybody who has joined or who will join or will see this video, I'm going to ask you to share, like, and subscribe so that the channel can continue to grow. It's doing pretty good now. We're almost at a major milestone, and this will help me a lot as I develop. So she is showing you how they get control. Now, one of the things people might say, well, all right, so how the hell you can take your money and give them? You signed an agreement because you wanted independence so badly. And you're not, it happened to Haiti too. That's why Haiti is so poverty stricken. It's a similar thing they did to Haiti. England has done a little different. They're not as brazen as the French. The England them give something and then put a governor general down if you watch you and you have, him know how much money you have make and him know how much money for send go to England and all them things. I don't think them as like crass or cold as the French. But them bad to know them not better than the other. But so this is what they do to people, take their money. No, I was gonna say for the people who decided that they were gonna not go along with this offer that France gave them, you know what happened to them? They were assassinated, they were chased out of office. Even if you didn't come under the French colonial grouping, the Francophone, they did it to the man in the Congo, Patrice Lumumba. They did it to Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana. They did it to Secretary in Guinea, all over. The man, the first leader of Togo, I don't remember his name right now. They did it all over. In Nigeria, had a great starter with a great leader. They did it to him too. They assassinated you. The other thing they did when they were leaving, if you tell yourself, I'm not going to go with that, along with them assassinating you, overthrowing you, when they were leaving some of these countries, they poured concrete in every sewer pipe, water pipe, sewer pipe, whatever. They poured concrete in them. So when they left, the people couldn't use the pipes, they couldn't use the bathrooms, they had to rebuild the whole country. This is how wicked and cold-hearted these people are. And this is why I'm trying to say people need to, we can't just every day get into the little yege, small fry BS. These are the big cats. This is the real head of the stream. These are the people who send people like Massa Mark into Jamaica and elsewhere where you have these puppets. When them used to have Papa Doc in a Haiti, he was put there by the French. Because Papa Doc started out as a good man, He was a doctor and he used to look after them people and them choose him. But France getting them head and give money and him make him become this ghoul. So it's a thing that we all have to come to the understanding that we must try to understand this thing so that we know how to deal with it. They said the man who understands the situation becomes the master of that situation. So we have to understand it so we can become the master instead of them. And that's what is happening in Niger, in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in even Chad, and Chad not fully there yet, but then somewhere in there. So the people are throwing off these yokes. We went through a thing, where we got political independence, so-called, but they held us in economic subservience. They held us as economic slaves. We work for them. We have a kind of release from one part of it with them over with the whip. But them say you must put this money and you must produce so much money. That's how they used to do. When King Leopold, like the so-called King Leopold, when he went to Congo and he was running Congo, if you don't bring out a certain amount of gold and diamond and then chop off your hand, your two hands. The same hands they needed for him, but him never care. Him killed 10 million Africans in the Congo. 10 million. At least 10 million. Because if you don't produce for him, that's how brutal that man was, wicked. And France while might not have been chopping off and them execute and them assassinate your leaders, the people would elevate and lift you up out of poverty. And we blame the people, these leaders, and consider the world of my teeth, but they were forced to do some of the things that they were doing by France. And whatever we can do, even this little small corner where I am speaking out, we need to make our voices heard. We need to make our congressmen, our senators, whoever they are, to say we have to get France to stop it. We see this little lady in Italy bawling out, telling France to stop. What you're doing is not right. You're wicked. And then him come one day and claim we can't prove it here. They can't say it in French. And I keep forgetting to ask somebody who speaks French and listen to it and say if it's really he was apologizing or not. And I think they said it might have been Photoshop. So I can't say for sure. But some people are carrying it like it actually happened that he apologized. But it's just, as we call it, crocodile tears. Him shedding. Him not mean it. Because if him get a chance and him grabbing them big jaws, like, again, if some people still under them bandage, some people still under them thumbs. You see them little countries in the Caribbean, Guadeloupe and Martinique, do you think they're free? Francis, I remember people used to come to, when I was at RJ, I used to have a set of people used to come from Guadeloupe, Martinique, and almost the French, whatever the part of the place where the America control it. They used to come to RJ. They couldn't speak English, and we struggled to understand each other. But they used to come protesting, come to us and just help them to expose them. Maybe most of them end up in prison. It's such a long time ago now. Most of them probably died off already. But it is right there in the Caribbean. And if we allow France to continue and to succeed with this wicked act, they're going to look and say, and they're already doing it to us, because why are we producing bauxite and getting no money for it? People between me, think about it. You sell your car, the man take your car, and him say, I drive it. I've been driving it for the last 2 years and I don't make no money with it. So I don't have any money for you. And him gone with your car. You're not going to settle for that. So them come to Jamaica and take your bauxite. And what them take our gold out of Jamaica, and them say them going to test it. And we never see anything of this gold. We never are any return from it. Them out there right now are digging all over the place. Gypsum is a thing them take out of Jamaica year in, year out. The white, because we have so much limestone in Jamaica. Gypsum are where them use to make tablets and all kind of medication and powder and all them things. That's where them get it from. Out one of the places is Jamaica. And we should have been a far more wealthy country than we are. We should be far more wealthy because they use a thing named sheetrock in America. Every house is built with sheetrock. Why is it that we are not making sheetrock and selling sheetrock to the market? Sheetrock come from China. And China, where China get the material to make it. Probably same Jamaica or somewhere in Africa. But them till one at a time, them find that the sheetrock that were coming from China was poisoning people, it was giving people cancer. So this kind of thing, we really need to stop for a minute and try to understand. I want to play another piece of another tape here. I played that earlier. I played the first part, but because I think it was so important. Did I play the last part of Chiambori? Because let me just go to this other piece of tape.
When Paris got to know, they ordered Voulet and Chanoine to be arrested. They deputed a French officer from Mali. He followed the expedition's trail to catch them. What he saw was blood-curdling. At one village, around 1,000 corpses had been left in the open. Bodies of young girls were hanging from trees. People were terrified by the French flag. It was a sign of impending death. The bid to arrest Voulet and Chanoine did not work. In the end, both were killed by their own soldiers, but the mission continued. French troops marched through the Sahara and secured the region. Their African project was complete. It looked like this: a federation of 8 territories: Mauritania, Senegal, Mali, Guinea, Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, Benin, and Niger. The capital was Dakar. This whole region was called French West Africa. Fun fact, it was 8 times bigger than European France. So how did they control it? The same way they captured it, using brute force. France did face rebellions in the first decades after the conquest, like the Tuareg rebellion of 1916. The Tuaregs are an ethnic group living in the Saharas. In Niger, they live in the country's north. When the Tuaregs rebelled, France crushed them. Summary executions were the norm. It was through these crackdowns that Paris held on to its colonies. Many of them fought wars for France. Around 2.5 million Africans were part of the First World War, another 1 million in the Second World War. These people were not French citizens, they were French subjects. And that equation changed only after the Second World War in 1946. Niger, along with other colonies, became overseas territories. They got seats in parliament, and with elections came political parties. The most important one was the PPN, the Progressive Party of Niger. 2 men came to dominate this party, the radical Djibo Bakari and the moderate Hamani Diori. They were cousins, also rivals. An important moment came in 1958. France had adopted a new constitution. Its colonies now had to vote on it, sort of like a referendum. If Niger passed it, the country would remain in the French community. The cousin politicians chose different sides. The radical Bakari called for a boycott. But Diori said, let's vote yes. He did not want independence yet. He wanted more autonomy within France, and he prevailed in 1958. Around 72% of Niger's citizens voted to approve the constitution. He also became the new president. But the tide was slowly shifting. Dissent was growing in parts of Niger, especially the northern deserts. So in 1960, France had to give in. They agreed to grant independence to Niger. Diori was elected president again. He banned all other parties, cracked down on rivals, and ruled like an autocrat. Now, normally the story would end here. But in West Africa, it does not. France began acting like a toxic ex, hanging around too much or meddling for no reason. This policy has a name too, France-Afrique, a sphere of French influence in West Africa. It was the brainchild of this man, former French President Charles de Gaulle. He asked his advisors to build up France-Afrique in 1962. And how did they do that? By building personal networks. France propped up leaders, often dictators in West Africa. They gave them military support, a little aid, and a whole lot of French glamour. What did they get in return? Resources and influence. More than 1,000 French companies operate in West Africa. They have the 3rd biggest investments. First is America, second is Britain. They also have soldiers there. France has deployed 3,000 troops in Africa. Around half of them are in Niger. Their job is to fight terror groups, but you can see why this is problematic. Imagine Britain stationing soldiers in India. Terrorism or not, it's an affront. From the 1980s, French presidents have promised to dilute France-Afrique. Macron has done so too, but their actions suggest the opposite. I have some trivia for you. 14 countries in Africa use the same currency. It's called the CFA franc. It was created back in 1945, before African independence. But even today, 14 countries use it. And I'll tell you how it works. West African countries deposit 50% of their reserves at the French treasury. In return, they can use the CFA franc. Its value is pegged to the euro. France says the currency brings stability to West Africa, but it also brings trauma, the trauma of a colonial past. The CFA franc is often called monetary servitude. It is one of the many reminders of French colonialism.
All right. So pretty much she has, repeated or said most of what I said before, and even more, probably even more clear than I did. And kind of that is what we have to understand about this whole colonialist system. Where you notice this thing about these 2 men who, when they were first getting independence, they were like, both of them were cousins. Does it ring a bell in your head that in Jamaica, 2 cousins, Norman Manley and Bustamante, they were 2 cousins. And they put them, and they came under one party first, same thing like in Jamaica. It was one party started by Norman Manley. And then they split. Buster they encouraged Buster to break off and go form his own party. When Jamaica said, when Norman Manley said, federation now, which would be the perfect thing to have done, because these little tidbit countries that they have down in the Caribbean, we would have been one country just like the Bahamas is. Some of these little countries like Barbados only have 100 and something thousand people, or some little number, 300,000 people. It's not hardly the size of a college in some of these colleges. And so they get them there, they set them up, and they say they are the leaders, and then one of them was progressive and one of them is a conservative, and which always seem to happen, them get the conservative one out, and then become this brutal dictator, this brutal authoritarian autocrat, and him just destroy anything named opposition anymore. And that's what France wanted. That's how France said, look at them hotel, say, oh, it's your leaders, them say, but they are behind the throne, they are behind the windows, pulling the levers, the Wizard of Oz. They are the ones, they are the Wizard of Oz behind, they're pulling these strings and telling these dictators what to do. And that's why every opportunity I get, I will caution people in Jamaica to say, be careful of what you're doing, because look at who you are going to be putting to lead you. How can you put somebody who is a minority to rule a majority country? We tried it already. It never played out well. We tried it with Eddie Siaga. We tried it with Bustamante. Bustamante used to tell the police and say, go shoot the Rasta man. Shoot them first and ask questions later. Then Siaga set up our kind of goon squad. So we have to be careful of who we are putting in, because they don't have the same feel for us like we have for ourselves. We cannot afford to do that again. We have gone down that road. And if I never lived through it, I probably would be like a lot of other people and say, no, nothing. No, it's a serious thing. Because most of the time, they don't see us as real people. They don't see us, they see us as subhuman. So not take anything for them. Tell us, say the man look on you and tell us, I don't know, keep on the mouth, shut up, don't come out from a tree, and because he can get to where me I got to. It's like he might hallucinate or something in brain now work good. He might hallucinate because say, get off of the thing. I don't need you. How you look around him is all him sees black people, but him, and there's not enough white people to vote for him. But him say, I don't know, me have my money already. And this is why I'm saying be careful. So let me go back to the Niger thing. I want to go through another clip, because I'm trying to get through as many of these clips.
Now you know why people in Niger dislike France. They plundered and razed entire villages, raped and mutilated women and children, imposed a colonial currency on them, and most importantly, refused to leave. France is a strange case. Most countries are blamed for their colonial policies, but France is also blamed for its post-colonial policies. Of course, that does not justify the coup, but it does explain why a lot of people support it. President Macron has always had a taste for foreign policy. He wants to leave a mark on the world. Maybe this is it. He could be the president who destroyed France-Afrique. Mali has moved away from French influence, so has Burkina Faso and now Niger. He may not have intended it, but that could be his legacy.
You see? So there was a man earlier on in one of the clips with this lady, Charles de Gaulle. Charles de Gaulle was a president of France back in the 60s. And de Gaulle had told them, had warned them and said, listen, you can't afford to lose Africa, because if you lose Africa, France is going to become just a third world country. Because think about it, if France is not making the money to sustain them, the lifestyle that they're used to, if they have to pay some serious money to get the uranium, they have to pay serious money to get the gas, they have to pay serious money to get the oil. And if they pay these monies, then the Africans can have a better standard of living. Because some of these African leaders are genuinely good leaders. Like when you think about the leader for Rwanda, Kagame, and even though he started off a little shaky in the early days, the man who rules Uganda, Museveni, and when you look and you go further, you look at man up in Ethiopia, his name is slipping me right now. But you go there, you look at the guy who's running Kenya, Ruto. These are good leaders and they are doing good for the countries. And their countries are growing. But if you take out those people and put some idiots in there who are going to get them pocket grease, get them money deposited in European banks, they're going to, it's just going to put you right back. So here are some young leaders coming up, like a man from Burkina Faso, the one in, I think, Mali is showing some signs. And if these guys set the thing up and we get a good person to run the country in Niger, you're going to see a whole different story. Can you imagine a country, 40% of the money that runs the country come from charity, and they're producing all those valuable materials, gold, oil, uranium, all kinds of valuable stuff that we use, and money, some people making big money out of it. Why should they be living off of charity? They have enough that they should be able to earn and take care of their people. They're not getting money because France tell themselves this crooked, wicked beast, France, robbing the people for 50, 60 years now. And we have to do whatever we can. Talk out on these. Let me see if anybody saying, yeah, I think somebody might be saying some stuff. Not a lot, but let me see. Boom, 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 boom. You're done with Jamaica. No, I'm not done, Howard. No, Howard, I'm not done with Jamaica. And I promise you I'm going to come back to Jamaica very soon. Howard, 1971. I know you don't love me beat up on everybody. And you know me not beat on one side, I beat up two sides. Marlene Carr, good evening, Marlene. And then there's someone say Royal Jamaica, which Karen Cecilia. Oh, that's Karen Cecilia. You love Karen. You see what I'm saying? So we need to take an interest because it's going to affect us. If we get Africa right, if we fix Africa, if our voices, we raise our voices to protect Africa as they go through the struggle that they're going through now. We are helping ourselves here because I've been looking at how many Jamaicans are moving into Africa. I just saw something recently down in Zimbabwe. They say a big, good-sized Jamaican community is developing in Zimbabwe because opportunities are in Zimbabwe. Opportunities are in South Africa. Opportunities are in Ghana. Opportunities are in Kenya. Kenya is calling us to come home. They're willing to give. You have some of these countries. They're giving you land. Once you touch down, they give you land. Some of them say, "All right, go live with this community. We give you land, and you share the knowledge that you're bringing from the West." So you have people from the West who went to agricultural schools, who do engineering, who do all kinds of things that is needed on the African continent. Because sometimes the Africans them run away from the continent because them take the grass green on the other side. And a lot of them sometimes are doctors and engineers and all kind of scientists. Them leave Africa because them now on a green card and thing. Them come and go drive taxi and them go wash old people private parts in hospitals, in nursing homes. So the demand is on the continent for people and where you can really make money. You have people becoming billionaires in very short time on the African continent. One of the richest man in Africa is a man coming out of Nigeria. And the man in built one of the biggest oil refinery, massive oil refinery, so rich. You know? And so you have guys who one man he left one of the smaller Gambia, he left the Gambia and he went to Niger, and the man become a billionaire in no time, just building houses. He was a builder and he go to Nigeria and he started to build. Hey, Your Majesty. Miss Karen, well, you're feeling better. If you want to come on, I send you a link, just say yes, and I send you a link. You know we're going to have a good time, but we'll hang out a little if you want to come on. Let me know, I send you the link, and you can come. I'll let you into the studio. So talk to me. Just say yes, and I'll send you, because I set something up if it happens, somebody wants to come. I forgot to say it, but if you want to come in, Karen, I'll let you in. But these are very important things, issues that we need to be discussing, because if the one person in the Caribbean who seemed to have caught the good fever of going into Africa is the lady from Barbados, Mia Motley. She has been making the connection with the Africans. In fact, they're going to be building a hub, an airline hub in Barbados. So people, instead of you traveling, when you want to go to the African continent, instead of you going all the way up into Europe, go to England and Ireland and all about the stupid place that them carry when you're traveling, and it take you 11, 12 hours when you travel, when it could take you between 6 and 7 hours. She has struck a deal with the Africans, and she's gonna have the business of making her country the hub that takes people in and out of Africa. And that's going to be a huge thing, because the size country she has with a little population, already them doing good. So she's just going to grow up her economy bigger, because everybody else is looking to America. America is looking for to go into Africa and go take what them can get out of Africa. So we need to start looking at Africa seriously to build, because Jamaica is 2 to 3 million people. We can supply 1.4 billion people with. There must be something we can sell them. Because I lived I lived for about 7 or 9 months in South Africa, and one of the problems I had there, the food was not necessarily. You could go to some place and get some kind of food, okay, but usually some kind of fried chicken or some kind of chicken something or something. But the way how we do food, you don't find it anywhere. I went to Ethiopia, and Ethiopia is the same thing. I don't know how that challenge eating food in Ethiopia. In fact, I have an allergy to something. I know one of them is pond shrimp that is raised, pond raised shrimp, and I ate something in Ethiopia. It made my lips swell big. And when I checked the chef, and he said, yeah, one of the things that I use, it has some kind of shrimp-based thing in it, and that's what was messing me up. So the kind of food with anybody, Africans who live in New York, them rush Jamaican food. So the opportunities are there to do business in those places. So we need to seriously start looking at these things. Black people we're suffering too much, and because we get our minds so messed up, where we think anything black is not good, anything from Africa is not good. But that's where everything good is coming from. The white man see, the Chinaman see, the Indian man see, people from Turkey see. Every country, every nationality is moving in on the African continent except us. Granted, that's kind of overstating it, because, like I tell you, a lot of Jamaicans are moving into the continent, right? And they're making money. While if in the Jamaica, they know, and they make them give everything away to the Chinese, and we can't think. But the African situation is so big, so vast. They don't have enough Chinaman for full the place yet. They might have some place that they might take over, yes, but them still have a ways to go. We still have room where we can produce things. Because right in New York here, when the Chinese restaurant used to be the hottest thing in New York, it's no longer that. It's a Jamaican restaurants that are the hottest things in New York. People want them oxtail, and whether them white, black, blue, or green, they want oxtail, they want jerk chicken, they want the fish, they want everything. So they look for the Jamaican food. And that from the black Americans to the Hispanic people, to the Africans coming, because I have reason to encounter the Africans them from time to time. It's always the Jamaican food I'm looking for. So with that, I'm gonna ask everybody. I want to say thanks, because I got a good time over now. I'm gonna it's well about 4 minutes if I want to make it to 10:30. Let me see if I have anything I want to show. Yeah, I might have a one clip here. Let me do this one. Let me see this one.
West Africa has become a region of intense geopolitical conflict. In the past few years, there have been a series of military coups, and some of these in countries like Burkina Faso and Mali have led to the rise of nationalist governments that have opposed the neo-colonial policies of the West, in particular of France. France colonized most of West Africa, and still today, France maintains control over much of the economies in these countries through the extraction of natural resources by French mining companies, and Paris also controls these countries' monetary sovereignty by imposing a currency on them called the CFA franc, which is a colonial currency going back to the time when these countries were French colonies. And under this arrangement, these countries in West Africa essentially have no control over their own monetary policy. So what we've seen in West Africa is a rise of popular movements supporting some of these military governments and asserting national sovereignty. And the most recent example of this was in late July, a pro-Western leader in Niger was overthrown and a new military government was declared. This government has cut ties with France and told Paris that it needs to take its troops out of the country, although the French government has refused to do so. It has asserted national control over its natural resources. And despite the fact that Niger and its neighbors in West Africa, Burkina Faso and Mali, are extremely poor, the majority of their populations are in poverty. Despite that, the top export of these countries is gold. And much of that gold is extracted by Western corporations, and the people of these countries don't benefit from the vast riches of their natural resources. Well, what we're seeing is an attempt to change that. And even Western media outlets have been forced to admit that the military government in Niger is very popular. A study conducted by The Economist, which is a right-wing pro-Western media outlet, it is very biased in the interest of NATO and the Western powers. Even The Economist was forced to acknowledge that 78% of people in Niger support the nationalist policies of the military government, and 73% of people in Niger want the military government to stay in power, whereas just 1/4, just 27% of people in Niger want the pro-Western leader, Mohamed Bazoum, to be put back in power.
All right. This is a man's name I keep forgetting. Bazoum. So the fact is here, I try to pull in from different sources to show you that I'm not just, I didn't just go out and pick some things by myself and made up some kind of story. This is a factual thing where whether you get it out of Africa, or you get it out of Washington, these people are saying pretty much the same thing and confirming what I've been saying, that France has done these people a raw deal and they're about to face their Waterloo, their own, and I think that's where that Waterloo thing come from. They're going to face their own Waterloo because the African who they consider to be children, the children have now all grown up and the parents can't talk to them anymore. They will fight the parents and they're ready to fight the parents because when it comes to technology, it came from us. And we still have the brain power. One of the biggest technology we use today came off of the African continent, the internet. It's an African, a South African, it might be a white guy, but is South Africa, him come from. And we call it Facebook, Yeah, it came from, well, the internet was developed by the military in America, but Facebook, one of the biggest thing, came from this African guy. And, so we have some technology that are using in, say, Kenya and all those, and even Nigeria, that black people are the leaders of it and the inventors of it. So we have grown up and we're not taking it anymore. I'm as the saying used to go on the line when there's a demonstrating and say, I'm fired up. I'm not taking it anymore. I'm fired up. Won't take it anymore. I'm fired up. Won't take it anymore. We black people, African people are fired up and we're not taking it anymore. And at this point, I want to say, a luta continua. We will continue to struggle. The struggle continues. We will continue to struggle until victory. Until victory. Until victory. When the black man finds back in his rightful place and people stop disrespecting us, stop calling us subhumans, and start to really start showing us some respect, because we are the ones who set it, and we are the ones at the end of the day, we're going to take it back. We're going to own it again, and we are very close to it right now. So all those people, we're not afraid of the nuclear bombs anymore, because guess what? We have the uranium, and we know what to do with it. We have brains who can put it together and we can build a rocket very fast. And anybody think they want to drop no bomb on Africa, they better think again. Because we have enough black people living in France can turn that place upside down. We have enough black people living there. That's why I'm trying to chase out black people out of there, because they realize we are there. We have enough black people living in Germany. We have enough black people living in England, and they can't do without us, because the kind of work that we perform, they can't do without us. We have enough. Well, let me not say nothing about, Oh, by the way, I have to say something about my praise. Uncle Joe, I call him. Uncle Joe, thank you for that partner draw. Uncle Joe gave me a partner draw. One day I will tell you all about it. And I want to say thank you, Uncle Joe. You promised us a long time, and you made a breakthrough, and I got my share. So thanks. I'm not here to fight you or anything. I just don't want you to abuse the Africans and force them to do anything with them no want to do. To live no lifestyle with them no want, and threaten them and tell them, say, I get no money from the World Bank. And I like you, we change that one, reverse yourself on that World Bank thing, and make sure Uganda get the money where them want. That is a small fry stuff going on there. So, Uncle Joe, you should not be getting involved in that. Ladies and gentlemen, all the nice people who joined me this evening and stayed with me and hang out with me, I want to tell you, I want to say thank you. I appreciate your company. Thank you for hanging. I hope I brought some information. I tell you, this one is so important that I might just do a podcast and just put it out there and nobody send a live after this. So I just keep putting them out and leave them out there, because this is too important to ignore. And I'm so happy that I have the ability to put it together and to do this. And then maybe next week, to satisfy my friends who are missing me with the politics, I'm going to look for a way. I know Peter must be missing coming on and dropping his sound, and so I have to try to bring back things next week, go back into politics. I know the reason I stayed out a little bit, because there was the whole thing had gotten so ridiculous, and I think we'll come back next week, maybe as early as Wednesday, if I can find an angle to come in. Maybe I'm going to call Karen and say, Karen, come talk to me about some of them stuff you're talking about, and we might open it up back that way. I know she stay. I know she her heart is still paining. I know with her sister, and I just want to say, we wish you a speedy recovery from the pain. I know that's going to take a while, because I know, trust me, I've lost a few people along the way. It's a painful thing. So Karen, stay strong. Everybody else, thank you for joining. Looking forward to bringing you something of interest that you will join in. All right? Thank you. Have a great night, a blessed night.